Welcome to episode 11 of the Kilty Kickoff with me, Dan, and my lovely co host, Murray. I think one of us is a little bit more happy than the other today, but mate, tell me how you feeling.
I've actually had an all right day apart from rugby. The in-laws came down, so we did Christmas with them, which was nice. It was a good old catch up, but the rugby really ruined my day. How are you getting on, mate?
It's weird too, because, well, many of you listening may not know, because I grew up outside of Scotland, I actually support both Glasgow and Edinburgh. So I always have a weird mixed feeling on 1872 Day. Like, I never get as low as what you did today, but I never get the high either. I'm always, a wee bit mixed. Like, oh yeah, that was that was great. But then on the other hand, I'm looking at the table. I'm like, well, one of the Scottish sides are getting screwed over this week. So when it comes to 1872 Day, I'm always a wee bit mixed.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, it was
I'm
a
yeah,
strange old game though.
I'm definitely not mixed. I hated it today. I really hated it.
It was embarrassing. Do you know what? That scoreline flatters Edinburgh. It
Yeah, it does.
absolutely flattens
It
Edinburgh.
does. Yeah.
33-14. It was what? With about 8 minutes left to go, it was 33-0. If it
Yep.
wasn't for Bowen Venter, that was going to be a whitewash. And he was the only one that brought fire into
He
the belly of
really. I know we didn't. I know we were nowhere near winning it, but he really did grab the game by like the scruff of his neck. Like, no, lads, let's just try and finish on a high. And you know what? Before I start losing it on this episode, because I've already warned Dan, and the explicit warning's already there, because I am going to lose my mind tonight. We did actually finish the game better, do you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
was one of them, like, where was that earlier? It was one of
right.
them.
Well, keep in mind, right? Like, sorry to play devil's advocate here. Glasgow had what 12 injuries going into this game. By the time we hit the 55th, 60th minute mark, they had
Yep.
taken off all their key players.
And that's,
Um, and there was two bits mentality wise that's just stuck in my mind, and we spoke on the phone before this call. And I
mm,
said there's two things. Glasgow's mentality is they want to win the league. They want to win the URC.
yep.
Edinburgh's aims is they wanted to win the 1872 Cup. So from a mental standpoint, right, that shows you where the two squads are. On paper, there isn't actually much between the two squads. Regardless of Glasgow being champions, there's a case to be made. A fully fit Edinburgh have got a better side. Um, and then there was, what was it, the 71st minute? It was just before Bowen Venter's first try. Edinburgh get a penalty. They kick it down to the corner, and like they just stroll
Just
down
walked it,
like
yeah.
cruise the game. I mean, it wasn't even like a normal pace walk; it was a slow walk, almost like they didn't want to take it. I'm like, where is your urgency? Do you think Franco Smith would have let Glasgow get away with that if they were trailing by a single point, let alone
Well,
33?
this is what I'm saying, and this is. I was on the fence with it for a long time. I just kind of kept my mouth shut on it.
Hmm.
But the last few weeks, I can't stand Sean Everett. The bullshit he comes out with. There you go. There's the first one. There's the bullshit he comes out with after defeats. Makes no sense. Every time that we score or concede, is he's just not wanting to. You can see it in his facial expressions. He could not give a rat's arse.
No.
Like it's an absolute joke. I was really embarrassed to be an Edinburgh fan this afternoon. And do you know what? I might get the piss taken out of me for this, not by you, but just in general, because the
I
internet
take
is.
the piss anyway, mate.
That's fine. But the internet's a very ruthless place. When Jamie Dobie got that try to make it 33 now, I could
Hmm.
feel like my eyes watering up. Just
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like I'm just going to burst into tears because we're that shit, or it was like an angry cry. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you're that angry, you just cry.
See, I always think when I try to explain to people, right, because I know you don't always make the conversions. When I explain to my mates who are football fans and they watch, they only watch rugby when the Six Nations on, what's that the equivalent to football? I always try to say about 6 points is probably the equivalent to a goal in football. So, by the time Glasgow get that last try in, you're playing your bitter rivals, you're losing 5-0.
Yeah,
For people that aren't a diehard rugby fan. Um,
but
5-6 nil. It must. It's a really, really tough one to take.
And you text me earlier on that Sean Everett basically came out with like, oh well, we got beat in the first leg last year and we did well in Murrayfield. Shut up. That's
Yeah.
not what does that say? What does that mean? What does that actually mean? Oh, we didn't care about going to Hampden. See if you didn't care. See if that's the mentality. Pick a B team. Pick the young lads. Have a field day with it. Do you know what I mean? Get absolutely obliterated and go, oh, we'll play better next week. Shut up.
To his defence,
just annoys the shit out of him.
beforehand, just be like, oh yeah, that's a very hurt. There's a lot of very hurt players in that dressing room and that. But look, ultimately, he's at the helm. He's in control. He steers the ship. With the players that he has at his disposal, right? Okay, you're playing the champions and you're playing them. I know it wasn't at Scotstoun, and this is the part that annoys me, right? Technically, on a technical level, Glasgow were the home side. This was a neutral venue in reality. Neither of those teams had played there before. The gap between Edinburgh and Glasgow should not be that large. I said on this podcast last week, 9 points to Glasgow. And, I thought I was being a wee bit controversial. I thought I was turning the screw a little bit. And I was like, I think I texted you when Glasgow went about 21 up, and I was like, mate, this could be 50.
Yeah.
It is for the players you had, right? And we'll go into the game in a minute because we know we're jumping about the place. Look at each bit in groups of players and tell me, is there anywhere that Edinburgh, even one small facet of the game that Edinburgh got the better hand at Glasgow? You look at the front three, right? Your two props and your hooker. I think Schumann got schooled by Fagerson. Johnny Matthews was in complete control over Ashe. I mean, until Bo Inventor came on,
I was going to say we did win a lot of scrum penalties near the end, but
I mean, if you look overall the game, but by that point, Glasgow had taken their best players off.
Yeah, I know.
Well, once the game was done,
I'm really struggling to actually look at any positive this week.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you go, folks. Sean Everett's tactics has actually broken me. I can't. It's it's shit. It's an absolute joke. People were trying to give me stick online because I did the video on TikTok, and people were like, "Well, you try to be head coach. It's not the head coach's fault that the players were ill disciplined." No, you're correct. It doesn't help, but it's also the coach that puts in the tactics, and there weren't any.
The coach that trains them out of it.
Yeah.
And look, I know this is going to be sore ground for you especially, but look, let me go through this because this is where I want to make my point in the parts where I thought that there's a key point where I said last week I thought Edinburgh would dominate the game. Now, you look at your 4 and your 5 combination, the injuries that Glasgow have had, and you look at who Edinburgh's got, your locks, that is your locks and your line out, that's where you would have been expecting Edinburgh, to turn the screw. Nothing. You look at your back three, your second row, back row. God, man.
I knew what you meant. It's all good.
Yeah, you've got Dempsey and Darge both out.
Yep.
But yet Glasgow in complete control.
Mm-hmm.
You look at your halfback combination. TJ, I mean, Glasgow have been gutted that he's going to go to Bristol, but TJ owned Edinburgh. So did George Horn. You'd think that Ross Thompson and Ali Price, knowing the Glasgow pack, that might have given Edinburgh an edge.
Actually, just before you continue, I'm not done it yet because it's far too early because we're still recording on the Sunday of the day of the game. I wouldn't have Ali Price or Ross Thompson start next week.
Oh.
No.
Well, you go Healy Bennetcott.
No, I'll go Shield because Velcott keeps getting hurt.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Which is another issue, but I'll get into that in a minute.
You look, I don't blame them for losing in the centres. They were going up against Huey Pilotu. That is probably the best,
Matt Curry didn't play. Matt Curry didn't play bad. He didn't play bad, and he did put in some decent post-contact meters. He really tried. Misesi again put in some decent hits, but then got matched. When the minute Sione grabbed a hold of him, he was like, "Nah,
Yeah, I mean, look,
you are little brother today."
yeah, Mosesi, to be fair to him, he didn't offer anything in attack, but I thought he was all right in defence.
Yeah.
Curry was one of the few Edinburgh players I'd probably give a pass to. Look, I didn't say it in my TikTok, but looking back at it, Curry, yeah, no, he had an all right game for Edinburgh. And the bit that annoys me most is you look at Edinburgh's back three and you look at Glasgow's back three. Edinburgh on paper should blow Glasgow out the water when it comes to the back three. They have some of the best
Yep.
back three in world rugby. Duhan hardly touched the ball. He touched it once and almost scored from it. Darcy Graham, he won a high ball, and he had that little chip and chase right at the end.
And he kicked
Wiskusen had that one ridiculous pass when Edinburgh made that break. Other than that, I don't remember
No,
the back three at all.
but this is what I was on about. It was more towards Duhan in previous episodes. Like, they don't utilise him.
No.
And you could see that he was getting frustrated. Darcy Graham, that is the quietest I've ever seen Darcy Graham.
Yeah. Touched the ball twice.
Yeah, and that's not even down. I don't even think that's down to how well Glasgow were. That's just we didn't
Edinburgh.
do anything.
But you look at the other side. How often did you see Kyle Steyn on the ball? Rather,
Yeah,
split in the wing, setting up passes.
Yep.
Like Steyn was unbelievable.
it's great.
Cancelleri,
Great return.
brilliant as well.
Kyle wrote a fullback. How many balls did he not drop? Like any other player, that would be a knock on, and he was almost proper Call of Duty roll on the floor and kept the ball in his arms. I'm like, how are you doing this? But again, we discussed it last week. It's a good headache to have for the national team.
Do you know? Here's a question that I've never considered till the first moment I've had. Right, right. Let's just say the SRUs like Glasgow are in, and this is never ever going to happen. This is fantasy land. I just want to know your reaction to it here. The SIU are like, this can't go on. We've invested so much money into Edinburgh for so little return. And they tell Franco Smith, next season, you're taking control of Edinburgh. What do you think he would do to that squad? Just humour me here. Franco Smith gets dropped in to tear that lot apart next season. What happens?
Old school 80s tactics with a weapon.
Just Old Testament style.
Old Testament style. Just beat them down to get them back up. No, Franco would have I think not even just Franco, any I'm at this stage now, and this goes out. I don't even know if this sounds stupid or not. I don't know if it's just because I'm still on the shit from today or what. I'm actually scared that Edinburgh do well in the Challenge Cup, because if they do well, that Muppet stays in a job, and that genuinely scares me. I would rather us just bomb out now, because then if we bomb out now and we're doing shit in the league, then the SIU have to go oh, wait a minute, what is going on here?
Whereas the SIU have the money to replace him, though. We're already run, a £10 million deficit?
Well, let's just make it an £11 million deficit. Just get rid of him. I don't actually care right now. I'm sick of him. Do you know what annoys me more? And it was pointed out to me by a good friend of mine. He's a Sharks fan. And I mean Durban Sharks, not Sale Sharks.
Okay.
And he kept moaning about Sean Everett, and I used to keep laughing at him because I never understood it. I never got it. I was like, maybe it's just... And then he was like, no, he's crap. We've got all these Springboks, they're world champions, some of the best in their position, blah, blah, blah. And yet we can't get wins. We can't get top 10 in the league. And I'm like, well, maybe it's a player mentality problem. Right? And that's what I said. Then Sean Everett came over to Edinburgh, and we were actually doing somewhat all right to begin with. It was like the honeymoon phase, as people refer to it as.
When other teams haven't worked out your tactic yet.
Yeah. So I started proper just ripping the piss to my Sharks mate. You said Everett was the problem. Get a grip of yourself, man. And see the minute it turned, I'm so sorry for everything I said. And he's like, yeah. He's like, his time is always the same, but the minute it hits that Everett can't coach, it doesn't leave, and it just gets more and more infuriating. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because let's just look at the track record, right? He went full noise against Benetton
when he shouldn't have. Just after the internationals.
Went full
because he
noise.
was so desperate for the win. Everybody else
Yep.
went in rested their internationals, but not Everett.
So he went full noise against Benetton, a game that we nearly lost because of the wind. Don't forget that. It was the wind, nothing
It was the
else.
wind. The wind.
He then came out next week with a weaker team against Gloucester and came out with, we've got so much great depth in the squad, it's nice to show it off, as if it's a tactical mastermind that he decided that was the plan. No, it wasn't. The SRU came in and went, you can't touch the good players. The big players, sorry, not good, big. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it was international rest protocol.
Yeah.
They can only play a certain amount of games,
Yep.
so he wasn't allowed to play them. But the thing that annoyed me is that he showed the mentality that he didn't think that Edinburgh squad could beat Gloucester, and
No.
he just resigned us to defeat.
Yep.
Where the kids, and now Edinburgh lost that game, but the kids put up a fantastic showing in that game against Gloucester.
Yeah, they
Still
did.
lost the game, but nothing against the kids that went out there.
No.
They did fantastic.
I'm never going to be blaming the players that are selected. It's
You
not
do the
their
best
fault.
with the squad you're out.
Yeah. And it's also one of those ones that, well, Duhan's not here. I'm going to make the most of this opportunity. Because then for future preference, then you go, actually, Nathan Sweeney, just because he was in that position,
Mhm.
he played really well the last time he played for Edinburgh. So I know what he can do. And that's fine. If you just start chucking them in willy nilly, you are being like, well,
Mhm.
what is going on here? But
Mhm.
again, it's not the young lads' fault because everyone's chomping at the bit to get game time.
Mhm.
Well, the Ospreys game, there was no tactics there. Back before the
No,
alternation, that was an absolute farce. That was
arguably the worst team in the league, the Ospreys. I know
yeah.
Zebra are piss
I mean,
poor.
look, they don't even have a head coach anymore. Toby Booth got sacked immediately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he came out at the start of the season and said he didn't want to be there, and he jumped at the. He said, "Look, the second I get another job, I'm off." And he openly said that at the start of the season. They're bottom of the league. They hadn't. I think we might have been. I'll have to double check that. We might have been their first win of the season. Like,
Yeah, that's not good enough. Shit like that's not good enough. And it's stuff like that that stops us being where we should be, which is a top 8 side. I'm not saying we're going to win trophies or that, but we should be in the playoffs.
no. Hold on. I'm going to disagree with you here, mate. Well, you look at. Okay, I know we've got injuries. You look at a fully fit squad. That Edinburgh squad has got British and Irish Lions.
It
It has
does.
got countless international squads. Now,
Mm-hmm.
outside of Leinster and Glasgow, it probably has the most international. No, Glasgow, Leinster, Sharks. Other than that, it's probably got more international players than any other side. I have said this before, and I will die on this hill.
No, I know
At
what
the
you're
moment,
saying.
if you take form away from that and just look at the players, and if you
Yeah.
to throw them in any other country, in any other league, any other manager, that is a top 4 team in the URC. That's a team that should be competing for titles. It's a top 4 side that doesn't even make the fucking playoffs.
Yep. I mean, right, you're said it now, so we're already going to talk about it. You're talking about getting on your manager. Me and you discussed the top 5. I posted it on TikTok. It's actually got quite a lot of good feedback. And it's actually had other people chucking some extra names. So I'll rattle off the top 5 and then like talk about them a little bit. And
Mhm.
then we'll do the other ones that got sprinkled throughout as well.
Mhm.
So my first choice is Pete Horn. It makes so much sense to get Pete Horn in. He's young. He's chomping at the bit to be a head coach. He was a Scotland A head coach, sorry, when they have fixtures. He's Gregor
Mhm.
Townsend's right hand man. Gregor Townsend, I believe, was Andy Robinson's right hand man. I know Andy Robinson didn't do well, but that's not my point. Gregor
See,
Townsend was the right hand man and then went into head coaching, and he's never looked back since. I think this
I
would be the step that Pete would need.
yeah, I can see the argument for it. I disagree with you on that, and bet the player that I would put in is another player that was on your list. I think if you were to force my hand now and say who you put in there, I put in Steve Tandy.
Okay, right, yeah. So I had Steve Tandy there because, again, it was you that told me he was rumoured to be the Wales head
Going
coach
to Wales. Yep. If
if Gats
Gatland
got
was
sacked.
back.
That hasn't happened. But again, that tells you Tandy wants to be a head coach. He wants to run it himself. So
Well,
stay in Scotland.
it's a natural succession for him. He knows the setup, the purpose of Glasgow and Edinburgh is to feed the Scotland setup. He
Yeah.
knows how Gregor Townsend plays. He knows what the Scotland setup is looking for. So that's
So he
why,
knows what the
in my
players can
view,
do.
yeah,
And
Tandy
yeah,
makes a great point. Edinburgh are leaking tries everywhere. He was the well. If he went, he would have been the ex defence coach for Scotland.
yeah.
He's the right man for me.
I'd say so as well. I say Greg Laidlaw. I know I had him quite high up because I was like, why not? But I know that it's going to be really hard to tempt him away from Japan, where it's a bit more
Yeah,
light and breezy, and he's loving life over there.
2 or 3 years from now, I could see him coming back and saying, "Look, I want to get involved." I do see Greg Laidlaw coming back at one stage. I think it's inevitable that he'll come back to Scotland. I think, look, let him go out to that end of the world, get his experience, win a couple of trophies out there, and then come back to Scotland when he doesn't need to prove himself.
You know
Because
what
if he
actually
came
be?
back
Do
this
you
time
know what
now,
would be?
he has a point to prove.
Do you know what would actually be a ballsy move? Now that I've thought about it, I didn't say it in the video, but I've kind of
Mhm,
thought about it now more a little bit.
mhm,
What about Clark Laidlaw, cousin of Greg, Hurricanes head
mhm.
coach? Like
Uh,
he's won gold medals and sevens World Cups. Like he knows how to get a team attacking. I know sevens and 15s are very different, but like the fundamentals are still there.
yeah, I can see the temptation. I think it's probably too much of a risk for both him and Edinburgh at this stage. I know in professional sport you can't guarantee success. Nobody can. You could drop in fucking Dr. Razzie in there and he couldn't guarantee success. Um, but I see why, but no. I mean, but the top two that we talked about, I think one, because first of all, the IRFU put all their money into Leinster, not Munster. If we were to do another steal from Ireland outside of Dave Nusafora, I said to you when we had that little call, I think Stuart Lancaster would be a fantastic appointment for Edinburgh.
And then
And
I won up you on ballsy moves and said Felix Jones.
did you? Did you though?
We both said Felix Jones. It'd be great.
Felix Jones, that's another one because we know he's got a non-compete clause in his contract with Rangers of England. Now I don't know if they've somehow dissolved that. I doubt that they have. I think it goes on for 2 seasons. So it is, as far as I'm aware, Felix Jones. Now I could be wrong on this, but I think for the rest of this season and all of next season, Felix Jones can't go near an international side, but he can take over a club side.
There you go.
So now what? Go to Edinburgh for 2 years. Um, you probably have to tempt him in to say, look, you can move into the Scotland setup in 2 years if Townsend didn't do well. But that's the only way you could tempt someone of his caliber in, or
Franco Smith and Felix Jones in 2 years' time.
that'd be some contest.
There you
Franco
go.
Smith versus Felix Jones. That's what you get where an unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
Do you know what I mean, though? And like other people, when I did that video, people were commenting like, "What about?" And ironically, your name. What about Dan McFarlane, the former Ulster head coach? I was like,
Yay!
I was like, maybe it wouldn't be the worst option out there. Some people even said Graham Roundtree. I was like, sure, why not?
He was
Why not?
floated for a couple of years ago, Dan McFarlane. Um, but
Ah,
no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't take him.
you
Um,
wouldn't take him.
no, no. It's just ah, I didn't think he did great at Ulster.
I don't think
Uh,
Ulster do great with Ulster. Saying.
it's funny, yeah. It's a hard one. I mean,
But
Felix
the way
Jones and Lancaster, you're in dreamland. Um, Tandy and
kind of makes
Horn
sense.
both work. They both make sense. I think they're probably realistic. I
Mhm.
don't see Greek Laidlaw, so if they were going to swap, it'd be Horn or Tandy, I think.
Mm. That's
If
fair.
I'd buy three, I'd put Felix Jones in. If I had a magic wand, goes to Felix Jones or Lancaster. But realistically, Horn and Tandy both work. I
Trying to think
believe.
if there's any other further field coaches. You know what I mean? But
I don't watch enough of Super Rugby to be able to point any out from further afield.
I'll take
Um,
I
the
could
thing is,
take Stephen Larkham. That'd be fun.
if you're doing good in Super Rugby, do you want to leave a Super Rugby side and go across to Edinburgh?
That's what I'm saying about Clark Whitelaw, though. That's what kind of touched on my head.
Right. Let's rebalance the scales a bit, right? We've talked the shit about Edinburgh for a while, and I feel like we've
But,
talked them down a bit. Let's
but,
go. I mean, because a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, they're Glasgow fans, and it's been a great win for them. So let's go and
they were fantastic. Sione Tuipuotu, player of the match, best
yeah,
12 in the world, and I don't care what people have to say about it.
he is undisputed champion of the world.
Shuggy.
So the holes he was doing. Also, Kyle Stain on his return, right?
Yep, great
I,
try.
I thought he looked a little bit rusty today, but even with him looking rusty, he still blew every other player on that park out the
Yeah, he was
water.
great. He's fantastic. It
Yeah.
was a great return. George Horn was great, although it did make me laugh when he got like a proper telling off by Holly Davidson. That did make me chuckle.
Oh, when he got scolded, don't you ever do that again?
Like, no, you ran into him. I seen what you were doing. Bring it back now. I was
He got
like, okay.
absolutely scolded. Tom Jordan,
Tom Jordan,
absolutely
great
fantastic.
player.
I know the head coach at Bristol know the player he's got, but I don't think the Bristol fans have any idea how good he is, and that's
I
what
don't know
annoys me
the
about
hype.
it.
They were buzzing when that got announced. I never
Mhm.
seen one
Yeah,
bad
because
comment.
they saw him in the autumn, but other than that, I mean, I hope the Bristol social media team, are posting his highlight clips for that game. Just a wee reminder, Bristol fans, this is what's coming to you, because he is so good, and I think this really could come back to bite Glasgow in the rear end with him leaving. I really think
Oh,
it might.
I hope so. No, I don't. I know what I mean. I
Um,
don't mean it, Glasgow fans. I'm just very pissed off about it today. That's all.
Matt Fagerson, I thought had a fantastic game. I like
Matt,
always,
I can't
he's a
remember the
calm.
last time. I can't remember the last time that Matt Ferguson had a bad game.
Mhm. Shelley, who I thought also had a fantastic game, and I'm
Uh,
glad to see him back. Gregor Brown, I thought he was great.
oh,
He was
actually, sorry. One
everywhere.
more, just last thing on Edinburgh before I go back onto Glasgow. Shuey was very lucky to not get red carded, and Marshall Sykes was the same.
Yeah,
Just because you mentioned
yeah.
Gregor Brown, that hit to Gregor Brown was nasty.
I'll do a match recap after we've gone through Glasgow. We'll go
All
through
right,
a
cool,
match
cool, cool.
recap.
Yeah,
I
but
agree with you there.
actually, you know who I think should definitely be, or has definitely put his hand up for a Six Nations call-up?
Who?
Jack Mann. My God.
Yeah,
He
he
is.
was fantastic.
This is what we're on about, right? When the young lads take their opportunity, whether it's through a rotated squad or because a player's injured, or both, you take your opportunity. And Jack Mann,
Yep.
in the absence of Jack Dempsey, has been phenomenal.
Hmm.
Absolute workhorse, just a bit of a dog.
Big
And
lad
you
as
know,
well. Like
he's a big
he's
lad.
bigger
And
than I remember him being.
it's great though. So again, it's another good headache to have. He was really good. I thought Ali Miller actually played quite well for the most
Yeah,
part. Ali
Ali
Miller
Miller had
was
a good.
quite elusive, yeah.
To give
Um,
one of the rarer Edinburgh players some slack, and one of the player on the Edinburgh side I thought played well that hasn't really been mentioned. I thought Maggie had a good game. I thought Magnus Bradbury were one of the few Edinburgh players that I would have given a pass mark to.
yeah, Magnus again played the best
Just as
he
you're on
had.
a
You can't do
yeah,
much.
as he could have done as an individual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
but yeah, Jack Mann, fantastic. Sort of to go back to it. So I cut you off
Um,
mid-flow.
but even the bench, like Patrick Schickerlin, I know he got a yellow card at the end, but I thought he was a good impact. Jamie
Hmm.
Dolby, obviously getting that try, like he is a perfect substitute to have because of what he can cover and just the pace
Yeah,
he brings to the game. Um,
he, I think
yeah,
having him on the field, especially if you have another scrum half on, there's a wee bit of a cheat code that happens when you've
yeah,
got him on the wing and another scrum half on. Because if you got him and George Horn on at the same time, the speed that you go at
yes.
can't be stopped. One of the other things that I noticed
Mm,
was usually, you know, an attack will form before the defence can settle if you're playing properly.
Yeah.
Today, when the few times Edinburgh did have the ball, Glasgow's defence would set
They were so
before
ready.
Edinburgh had before
Yeah.
Edinburgh had their attack in shape, and they knew what they were going to do. Like I wait till the game was over and all emotions died down, and I paused the TV after the full time whistle, and then me and you spoke on the phone. Afterwards, I went and watched the post match. Franco Smith is up there in his fucking Christmas jumper, and he said, "Leah, we knew at some stage Edinburgh were going to change their attacking shape and their defensive shape. We were prepared for both of them." And the second they did it, my players knew exactly what to do. Didn't have to do anything. I'm delighted with everything they did, other than that last 10 minutes. That last 10 minutes pissed me off. And that's like.
But again, then this reverts back to the whole Sean Everett thing.
Mhm.
That's how a coach should speak. Like, yes, we won.
Yeah.
Yes, we were good, but we still conceded points, which isn't good enough. Fine. Be mad at that.
Yeah.
Be mad at those 14 points. That's good with me. Not coming out with, oh well, we lost the first leg last year. We did so well next time. Shut up, man. What does that even mean?
My favourite bit of
You're not telling me that based off that performance, you're like, oh well, we're gonna get them next week. Based on what? Do you know what I mean? Like, I forever say back your team. And guess what? Like, when we do the predictions later on, I will say Edinburgh to win. More because I need it more now. But
yeah.
I'm not doing it based off anything I've seen today. Absolutely not. And again, I said this to you earlier, Dan. I don't think it would be a win to get us to 1872 Cup. It would be wins to get you points in the league. It would be like Edinburgh by 3, but Glasgow still retain the 1872 Cup by about 17 points. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've done the job today. Cool. We could end the year on a high, somewhat. That trophy staying on the west side. And yeah. And people actually, just another little rant, because I don't know where this crap comes from, and you'll understand it sometimes when you do videos. People that come out with, well, why don't you start coaching the team because you seem to know what you're talking about, or you try being out there and playing, as if you are the ones playing. Yeah.
No,
I don't recall seeing you puffing out your arse at Hampden for 80 minutes. So, yeah, it was just a bit weird. Anyway, yeah, Glasgow, well deserved. I'm not taking anything away from Glasgow. They were sensational, and you'll actually be pleased for me to hear. You'll be pleased to hear this from me. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. I'm looking at the league table now in front of us, and if Edinburgh do what they did today, I reckon they could drop as low as 13th by next week.
That would be a rid flag to get rid of Everett.
With the team, well, they're joint 11th at the moment. They're sat at 9th, but between 8th to 12th, they're all on 18 points, right? Scarlets and the Welsh Derby, got to fancy them for a win. Connacht are playing Ulster. They might pick up some points somewhere. Even if they only pick up one, they pick up bonus point apiece. Benetton versus, you imagine Benetton will beat
Right, that game was so boring this weekend. So, I know it's not Scottish rugby related, but that might have actually been the worst game from a neutral point of watched. That was just that did nothing. There was like 10 minutes left on the clock, and it was like 5-8 or 5-3, and I'm like, somebody just do anything. I don't even care right now. Just somebody do something. But obviously, emotionally, Edinburgh, the 1870 Cup was the worst game for me. But if we were to get absolutely smashed next week to Glasgow again,
at Murrayfield,
that would actually be the time to get rid of Everett. And I'm not saying bring in Pete Horn for a 6-month deal, because I want Pete Horn or Laidlaw or Tandy to come in long term. I don't want a year and a half.
They're going to need the rest of the season just to steady the ship, to analyze the team and go like, okay, these are the players that I want to keep. These are the players that don't fit my style and they need to go. And look, Scottish rugby's in a bit of a rough place at the moment. It might help raise a bit of revenue. They'll be like, that gives them time to identify the players that they need to bring in, whether it be from our youth system, whether it's players at Glasgow that don't get a look in that they can just move over,
See,
or if
this,
it's
this
one
is
or
what I
two
was
players that
thinking.
they need to sign.
Yeah, because well, Pete Horn, I know it was a Scotland A, and you kind of, but I believe he actually was a big thing of selecting that whole squad as well.
Hmm.
Look how many youngsters were in that. Like, you're not telling me Pete Horn's not looking at. I know Freddie Douglas is injured, but you're not telling me that Pete Horn's looking at Freddie Douglas maybe he's no, you're starting. Conor
Hmm.
McAlpine will be in there. The Blythe Lafferty brothers will probably getting appearances. Rob Carmichael will be more frequent. Rob Carmichael's 6'11", and yet we don't use him. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but you don't have to throw the ball very high for him to win a line out.
Well, tell you what worries me. The one thing as an Edinburgh fan that would worry me about a new coach coming in is, as we said, a new coach come in, he'd be like, okay, right, let's just say we've got Redev right now. You got to the next of the season just to be competitive is all we ask. But in the meantime, identify what you need to fit your style, what players are staying and what players are going. That's
Yeah, that's
job number one on his to-do list. After that, I guarantee you, before they sell any players, Franco Smith will be told, right, what players do you want from Edinburgh? Because right now, it'll be no secret that the SRU will want to turn Glasgow into a team like Leinster have. That'll just be where where the top end are until Edinburgh turn things around. You'll probably find players like Bowen Venter will move across to Glasgow, or any other players that Franco identifies look, they've got that bit of grit that I want. And if I was one of the Edinburgh players, wouldn't blame him.
but this isn't just because Edinburgh's been doing crap. We've done this for ages. Ali Miller and Rory Darge were Edinburgh players.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see them play for Edinburgh? No.
No.
And you know what?
No.
I know he signed a
Franco
professional
spotted
deal.
them.
Huh?
Franco spotted him.
Franco spotted them. I wouldn't be surprised if, who I've just mentioned, the Blythe Lafferty brothers, always 18 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and has the potential to be great. Won't get a sniff in Edinburgh for whatever reason.
Jari Ogunchibiju. He was on nobody's radar, but
No,
Franco
he was a
spotted him. Franco spotted him.
I'm just trying to think of the young lads that's in the Edinburgh setup that would benefit actually moving across.
I know the most heavily one that people suspect to go over is Ben Healy.
But
I'm
that's
not
more.
sure
I
if he
think
would
that,
fit the
I
mold.
think that's more out. I think that's more out of pure hatred towards Everett, to be honest.
Well, there's that it's sort of become common knowledge that they don't get on, and the fact that Hastings is injured, and with TJ going to Bristol,
Wouldn't
Glasgow are
hurt.
going to need another 10.
Wouldn't hurt. I could see. I could actually see Jamie Hodgson jumping ship when he comes back from Bristol because he doesn't get a sniff in. And the whole
Tell him
point
to
of
be
the
a good warrior, and
who
I
would be a
hate to
good
say it,
who would be a
but
good warrior. What you said.
yeah, who I think would be a great warrior
You
if you were going to steal an Edinburgh
you
player
say
to go over.
you say Duhan or something. I'm going to slap the beard off you.
Darcy Graham. I think he's got the right mentality because he's one of the. No matter how good or bad they play, when he gets the ball, he looks great. I think if there's one person in that Edinburgh squad that has that bit that Franco wants, that determination, it'd be Darcy.
I need a bit of Darcy Graham. You know what?
Yeah.
That's fair. There was a rumor, and again, this what you're saying about chopping and changing, and again, I don't know how true
Mhm.
it is. You would need to see where he fits in when he comes back. Sione Vailana,
He's fun.
he's not Scottish, so you don't have to worry about that.
Hmm.
But
I love
for,
Thailand. He's one of my
for
favorite
he's such
players.
a good
You
player,
know how much I like a big bastard back row. Like,
and that sticks with your theme. But you know what I mean? Hamish Watson is not getting picked for whatever
where was
reason.
he?
I'm not. I'm not sitting here near Dan saying that Hamish Watson would have made all the difference today. That's not what we're saying. But a player that is so
Of his caliber.
yeah, Hamish Watson comes on the field. Hamish Watson is like a pinball machine. He is just out there wrecking bodies, and even if he is on the losing side. There's a lot of players on the opposition going like, fucking
You've got
hell,
that
Hamish
dog in him.
Watson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hamish Watson is just an absolute unit in
He's
the
a pit
best
bull.
way. He is. He's a little pit bull that just let him off his lead and just let him go. But
Mhm.
for whatever reason, Everett doesn't pick him. I
Aye.
understand that Ben Muncaster was in great form and that Freddie Douglas was needing more game time. I get that. But
Mhm.
Freddie's hurt and Ben's been ill. I know Ben came back this week, but Ben's been ill. So where's Mish? Because apparently he's fully fit.
Yep. But he's not getting picked.
For what? You're just what? Shutting out Hamish Watson. Do you realise how stupid this is?
Mhm.
He would go to Glasgow. I could see Hamish Watson going to Glasgow. Again, not to contest,
The
not to,
resurgence of Hamish Watson if he went to Glasgow.
not
Like
to,
Frank
not
Smith,
to
what he
compete.
would do to him.
Yeah, not to compete for Glasgow's selection, but
Mhm.
just to bolster. Like, so if you go, oh, Rory Dars needs a rest. Hamish Watson
Hold on.
starts. Oh,
I'm going to stop your tracks here. I want you to picture a back row at Glasgow Warriors of Hamish Watson, Sione Vailanu, and Jack Mann.
fuck, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not hard to think, to even shuffle. So, like, Jamie Ritchie, Sunny Vailanu, Ben Muncaster.
Mhm.
It's not hard. It's not hard.
It's just a man of his experience. When you're playing the champions, you need everything
You
to
need,
get.
and again, I'm not taking anything away from Marshall Sykes because Marshall actually played quite well the last few weeks. But why is Sam Skinner not playing that game? Where's Glenn Young? Do you know that's the bit that's annoying me more. It's stupid shit like that. Like, don't go like, where's Buffelli? Like, Buffelli is finished. He ain't playing for a while. We've all accepted that.
Mhm.
But see the players that are just kicking it, like when you go down to the Hive and you see the boys that aren't playing in their jacket and jeans, and you see the ones that are coming through. Like, why are you not out there? Like, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah. It's like,
Honestly,
look, I go back to what I said weeks ago. Coming for the Six Nations coming up, I struggle to justify picking many Edinburgh players.
I'm on the same
I like,
boat now,
yeah.
which really hurts to say that because
Who gets in? I mean, we're thin at prop. Schumann gets in, right?
Schumann
You
gets in.
probably find that Dewey. I
Dewey and
don't think
Darcy get
Dewey
in.
and Darcy. No,
They don't.
I still
They're not. Well,
one of them sits behind Stein.
no,
I
they
know you
don't.
like him in the 23 shirt, but he outperforms them. You can't play
No,
the best player on the bench.
he outperforms them at club level. Nobody's outperforming them on the international scene. They're the record holders. That kind of says it all.
Well, it depends if you go on tries per game. I don't know how many tries that
Staines on a
Stein
good
scored.
Staines on a good chunk, but I'm just
I
saying.
think he's on about
There,
15 or 16, but he's played about a third of the games that they have.
this is how mental this game was today, right? My father-in-law he dabbles in rugby, right? He's more into
Hmm.
rugby to go along with me, like for bonding, right?
Hmm.
So he's still very unfamiliar. Like he'll just look at me, oh, that was a good try, and I'm sitting like spitting teeth because it was a good. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's fun. And he was looking at it and he was like, I thought Doohan played for Edinburgh. I was like, yes, he does. He's like, well, where's the Doohan that we get for Scotland? I'm like, this is my point. This is what I'm
Hmm.
on about. Any self-respecting coach looks at like Doohan, for example, and goes, you are an absolute animal. Give him the ball. And Sean Everett goes, well, Doohan's there. Great. He's so I really used to be positive and I hate bashing people, but Sean Everett has genuinely crushed my spirit to the point I'm past caring.
Yeah.
Like it's I said to my partner today, so I'm going to 1872. I'm going to the Murrayfield like next week,
Hmm.
and I'm taking the oldest, and I'm going with my dad. It's going to be a great day, but during the game today, I looked at my partner and went, I don't even want to go next week. Which is never I've never said this. Like, do you realise how like if you've known me for long enough, even not on TikTok, not as Buster. If you know me as Murray and how much, like Dan, you can vouch for this, how
Yeah.
much I like live and breathe rugby, not just Scottish rugby. That's all I do. That's all I talk about. And the fact that I don't want to go to a game next week. Does that not say how bad this bell end is
Yeah.
ruining this team?
Since you've been there, yeah, it's crap. Look, just before I'm only going to say because I'm going to forget it now. I was just looking at the stats. You know how you just said that you don't think that Stain outperforms Dewey or Darcy at international level.
I said I don't
I
think so because of the record.
But I just looked at the record there. Duhan scored 40 points for Scotland. This is Wikipedia. I'm just reading now. He scored 40 points for Scotland. He's played 20 games. So on
No,
average,
he's
Dewey
not.
scores.
That's wrong instantly.
Okay, fine.
Duhan's on about 47 caps.
He's on about 47 caps, is he? Do you know
Yeah,
what? I'm looking at the wrong bloody stat. That's why. That's my fault. That's my fault. Yeah, no, yeah, he's on 44 caps. You're right.
No, he's on more than that. I think. If
Uh,
you go on the Scottish Rugby website, it'll give you the actual number.
right, I'll do this at a separate time. I've got that all wrong. Disregard everything because I thought it was like, okay, points per game I was looking at there, but Wikipedia is not a trusted source, kids.
No.
Right?
Do you know what else isn't a trustful one? Because I was trying to do a video on something. Again, it was like all the races on. Edinburgh's. So Duhan got his 100th today. He's now an Edinburgh Centurion.
Yeah.
But if you go on the Edinburgh website, it says he's only played 92 games. I'm like, you need to update that. Because, do you know why I wanted it updated? Tim Visser is the all-time top try scorer for Edinburgh Rugby with 60 tries. I wanted to see how close Duhan and Darcy were to that because it does seem like they score somewhat frequent, I would say. So I was like, well, they can't be that far off it. But then when I read that, like, Duhan's played 92 games for Edinburgh, I was like, no, you've missed 8 games. Yeah. And like, so then I looked at Darcy's and it comes up and I'm like, well, is that true? Or have you missed 8 games or more for Darcy as well? It just needs updated. It's really weird.
Stats. Right, let's go and pop throughout the game then.
Oh.
I mean, we've covered most of it anyway. 6 minutes in, Johnny Matthews gets his first try, right?
That's what I was actually wanting to say before you went on your no Edinburgh players are getting picked for Scotland tangent. Right, so the 1872 Cup, whether the players say it is or not, it is an audition for Scotland. We all know it is. That's the whole point of it, essentially.
It's a couple of weeks. The Six Nations is 40 days away before we play Italy in the first game.
Yeah, it is a very much. Oh, Gregor.
And it's basically 92% of the Scotland squad going head to head against each other. This is the audition to player for player who gets them for Scotland.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm not saying that no Edinburgh players get
Rugby Jesus here, are we?
Oh yeah, if this was an audition to start for Scotland, why wouldn't you be starting Johnny Matthews?
Yeah,
genuinely. And this is coming from somebody that said, if you go back on episodes, I was trying to be like, well, have you ever thought he's not this? And but this is all.
We did our power rankings for Scotland, and you fought Ashley's corner. You went Ashley and Richardson, and I went Matthews and Richardson.
Yeah,
like
I'm now not. I still Richardson. Yeah, he's not in this discussion right now.
Yeah, he's not in this discussion.
But Johnny Matthews, like, I know he always scores for Glasgow. He's done that for a long time, and it actually became a thing today that when he did score that first try, I went, of course he did. Of course it was Johnny. Like, it was one of them. Yeah, no doubt. But even the commentators say it.
Yeah.
And then the second one he got is when I was like, why aren't you starting for Scotland? Because I even said it again to my father-in-law, who has been to a couple of games, and he was even like, is he Scottish? I was like, yeah, he's got 2 caps. He's played against Romania and Portugal, and he's like, Why is he not starting? I'm like,
And hasn't he scored in both of them as well?
he never scored against Portugal, no.
No, he didn't score. Did he play Portugal? I
Yeah,
didn't
he
think he
came off
played.
the bench.
No, he
He
was
did.
on the squad, but oh yes, you got about 2 minutes. I forgot you only got about 2 minutes. Yeah,
I
right.
see he's useless. Can't even score in 2 minutes. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But yeah, it's it astounds me that he doesn't get picked by Gregor Townsend. I was speaking to is it Natasha. She used to do
Oh, Tash, yeah.
the yeah the media for Glasgow Warriors. Look, I'm not going to throw her under a bus, so I won't say much. But she's astounded that he doesn't get picked either. It's just him and Stain. But
For sure, saying, will you?
nah, I'm not going to do it. That's one of the biggest travesties for Scotland. Like him, Matthews, Stain, and Andy. I know he's injured at the moment, but when he was fully fit, Andy Christie.
Oh, man.
Oh,
I like Kyle Stain. I've never distinguished that.
get off that Stain hating bandwagon, you.
Don't even hate him.
So, right, okay, 6 minutes in, Matthew scores a try, George Horn gets a conversion. We get to the 12th minute, Shuey goes in with a shoulder. I forget who he hits in the head of the shoulder. It's
Gregor
somebody.
Brown. Yeah.
It was Gregor Brown. He goes
Yeah.
in with a shoulder. It looked a wee bit cynical. He was just lucky there wasn't much force in it, so he gets off with it. Yellow card could have easily been a red.
I thought we had a red. But
Yeah.
anyway,
A minute later, Hugh Jones goes through, gets
that
the
was
try.
great. That was right. This is what annoys me. See, great tries. Like, you sit and watch it, and you come back a wee bit and go, "Oh, that was great," but then you realise it was against your team, and you're like,
Yeah,
"But yeah,
yeah. A couple of minutes later, Johnny Matthews goes in again. It's just, if you want a man in the mall, it's Matthews, right? He
pretty much."
not only is he the man in the mall, but even outside of it, he is rapid. Matthews is rapid.
This is where I was going with about Matthew starting for Scotland today.
Mhm.
Like majority of the Scotland pack is at Glasgow. So you've got Xander Fagerson, you've got Scott Cummins, probably have Gregor Brown / Max Williamson if we're all
Mhm.
fit. Then you've got Fagerson, Dard, and Dempsey. So
Dempsey.
it's just Shuey and Ashman for the time being. Like,
I mean, why don't you just keep that driving mall? You start shoot. So it basically is Glasgow's driving mall with
with
Schumann.
Shuey, who's an absolute water buffalo on the loose.
Yeah, and he can absolutely get in there. So why don't just let's not argue it. Let's just put Matthews in, right?
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you. It makes
Gregor, if you're listening, put Matthews in.
Daddy Gregor do it, please.
Denny Gregor. Can you do that in a Scouse accent?
We could get a
Uh-huh.
lost in the first Scouse accent. Daddy Gregor. Oh,
Denny
yeah, man.
Gregor.
Gregor.
Yeah, Denny Gregor.
No, it can't. That really hurt.
um,
Carry on. Sorry.
so yeah, you go into the second half, and I can't remember who was it that made the initial break. It was Matthews and who else? Was it Cancelleri?
Cancel. Yeah, they got a
Yeah,
good break. Yeah.
and then pass to Matthews when they went down the centre. Then they pass it out wide. Stain scores in the corner, and the 41st, or I think it was the 41st minute.
Yeah.
At that stage, the game's won. Glasgow start to take off all their big hitters. All their big players start to go off. And then after they get a bit of consistency, 64th minute, Jamie Dobie comes on and he scores. And George Horn again gets conversion. At this stage, you're 33-0 up, and you're thinking, like, where's this going? Bowen Venter, hold on, before we get to that point, then it gets to my favourite moment. The 71st minute, they ever get a penalty, they kick it down, and they stroll get it down like they've not got a care in the
Yeah.
world. Bowen Venter comes on for Schumann, grabs the game by the scruff of the neck, goes over and scores. Um, Schickerling gets sent off. He gets sent in for Glasgow. And it's advantage after advantage. Edinburgh aren't really doing much with it. Again, Bo Venter, we've said it for a while. He doesn't have a bad game for Edinburgh. Just says, "Give me the ball," and he goes over again single-handedly and scores. I think that's it. That's all that happened. Bo Venter single-handedly made that look a more respectable scoreline for Edinburgh. I thought Edinburgh deserved to get nilled.
I, I didn't want us to get nailed, but it wouldn't have surprised me the way things were going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought but yeah, look, I'm not going to take it away from Bo Venter, but the way they played, I thought they deserved it.
But it's not right
Um,
because Sean Everett says we're going to do better next week.
yeah, that's what happened last year, so the same is going to happen again next year.
Much,
I'd like to see what he says if they lose Murrayfield, where 40,000 are expected. I want to say, great job by Scottish Rugby for getting
yes.
27,500 to Hampden. Now, the first time in a new stadium's always the lowest turnout, but
Mhm.
for a country like Scotland that's so football dominated, and in Scotland, the heartbeat of football is Glasgow. Glasgow
Yeah.
is a football city through and through. For Glasgow Warriors to put on the show that they did and to get as
Yeah.
many bums on seats as they did, that is an absolutely great achievement for both
Oh,
Glasgow and Scottish Rugby, getting 27,500 down. I said in my video earlier that give it 5 years,
mm.
I think Hampton Park and Murrayfield
Oh yeah.
will be selling out. Give it 5 years.
I've already got a plan on how to do it bigger next year.
What are you going to do next year?
I don't mean like stadium wise. You can't get much bigger, right? That's the whole
Yeah,
point.
I was going to
But
say, unless you moved it to Celtic Park, I don't
no,
see how
no,
you can go
no,
bigger.
no, no, no. Stick with Hampden. Stick with Murrayfield. But for both games, so for both legs, you run double headers because the Celtic Challenge just started. Actually, that's all. What I'm ending on that high because on the night before of the 1872 Cup, we did what I like to call the 2023 Cup because that's when they first played. It's not a
The
thing. That's just
2023
what I like to
Cup.
call. That's just what I like to call it. Edinburgh women beat the absolute brakes off Glasgow Warriors, 63-15, and it was an absolute sensational effort. And I'm not just saying that to cheer me up. But for next year, I
Who's the
genuinely
coach?
believe,
Can we get them to take over from Everett?
yes, can we make history and have Claire Cruikshank as the first men's head coach, as the first women head coach for a men's team? That's what I was trying to say. That would work because she's well respected and she wouldn't take any shit from anyone. Yeah, do that.
There's your
No,
short list.
there's my short list. No, you know what I would do next year? Both Hampden and Murrayfield, you have the girls as a like an open, like you do a double header both times.
Well, both games on
Both
back to back
games.
on the same game.
Yeah, so like I don't know, a 1 kickoff. You do Glasgow versus Edinburgh for the women's game
Mhm.
at Hampden, and then you do 5 o'clock kickoff, Glasgow, Edinburgh, first leg of 1872, and then you do the same next week at Murrayfield.
Okay.
And do you know where I got that from? I stole that from Quins because they do their big game at Twickenham, and the women open up, and that's because the
Is it
popularity of women.
I thought they did that at Tottenham Hotspur.
No,
Or is
that's
it
no,
Twickenham?
sorry, that's sorry to do that.
Oh, Saris that do that. Oh, okay.
But yeah, the point still stands. Like they do a double header at a bigger stadium once a year.
Mhm. Yeah.
We could do that twice.
Do it. Absolutely do it.
There we go.
Well, look, I think that's us chewed over the fat of it. You know, quite a bit. I think we'll probably leave it there for this week. I'm feeling mixed feelings. I'm up for Glasgow, down for Scotland. It worries me going into the Six Nations. Just because of the mentality, I'd like to keep Edinburgh players at a minimum because when we're playing, these high crunch games, and for us, Ireland, England, and Ireland are going to be really high crunch games for us. I,
We'll be
I just
grand.
don't. Yeah, I don't trust the mentality of
No,
Edinburgh players at the
we'll,
moment.
we'll be grand. We'll be trusting the mentality of the Warriors. Finn with Bath, actually the Bath,
Mhm.
not quartet, trio. Sorry.
I want to say, though, I think when the Edinburgh players came back from the Scotland training camp, I think some of the winning mentality rubbed off on them when they were in camp. But it
Yeah.
seems to. I'd like to see if after the Edinburgh games, if that wears off or not. But, well, only time will tell with that one. We'll leave it there for this week. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Look, if you listen to us on Spotify, give us a comment or a review. It comes through to my phone if you do. If you've got any suggestions, we'll always read them out. Do our best for you. It helps us get noticed, especially if you watch us on YouTube. Any comment, any interaction, or whatever helps us get noticed. And we're trying to reach as many people that are passionate about rugby as we possibly can. If you're on TikTok, you've got Blissful Rugby over there, and I am Rugby Realm. You can find us on there where we both have our own takes and we talk all things rugby. I mean, we're heavily focused around Scottish rugby, but we both touch on things outside of Scottish rugby as well. Right, let's leave it there for this week. Thanks so much, and we'll be back again after the second leg.
Have a good Christmas.
Cheers.
Yeah, have a good Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.